Today I'm going to talk to you about the withering away of organic life on our planet. And I want you to look at that man. He's a man from Africa, 300 years ago, and he is planting something. He's in his own social, ecological, and economic space. That's it, 300 years ago, a man from Africa. And one day he looks up and sees a donkey, a missionary, a European, coming towards him. It's a rare sight. It's the first time he's seeing that rare sight. What does he do? How does he presume? Well, Chinua Achebe, the famous Nigerian novelist, said there was an African cultural characteristic which allowed that man to welcome the missionary. He called it embody. Embody means when you see the foreigner, when you see the different man, you welcome his presence into your civilization because it adds to it. So many Africans will welcome the Europeans because it added to their culture. But I would like to ask you a question. If it were you, with the hindsight of history, because he doesn't know that behind that man there is a slave ship, and a plantation economy, and a manacle, and a queen, and a parliament, and a sugar economy. Do you know? What would you know? Don't answer the question. It's rhetorical. This is Mrs. Yvonne Ashby. She lives in Chatham. You know her? Yeah. I'll give her a round of applause. She's a great-granddaughter of an African slave. Her great-great-grandfather used to inhabit the first village which came out of slavery and inhabited the Chatham forest. And she lives in Chatham even now. She lives in this place called Trinidad. One of the interesting characteristics of Trinidad is that it is very rich in biotic mass, very rich in organic life. You see Attila? What a tremendous addition to organic life on this planet. Thank you very much. So beautiful and so sinuous and so feminine and so crazy and so everything beautiful. So you yourself are part of that organic complexity. And if you took 1 square inch of soil, and this is scientific, I'm not making this up, or bark from a tree, you will find it's very, very densely speciated. You're getting mass. You're getting a load of biotic mass in Trinidad and Tobago because of our proximity, of course, with the Amazon Delta, the Orinoco estuary, and flat western shore there. So I want you to remember that. It's very rich in organic life, very, very rich in diverse mass organic life, human populations even. Well, that's Trinidad and Tobago seen from the west coast. And one day Mrs. Ashby is staying on the porch. And she sees 2 strangers coming towards her. One is an Australian, and the other one is a gentleman from the National Energy Corporation. Mr. and Mrs. Ashby, greetings! Yes, what you want? We come to put on a smelter in Chatham, producing aluminum. One of the biggest aluminum smelters in the Western Hemisphere. And it's going to be put in an industrial port, an industrial estate. But there is a small matter. You have to give up 4 miles of your coastline. And you have to give up a significant amount of the Chatham forest. And you have to give up your milk factory. In fact, they shut down the milk factory. And the whole monkeys and the monkeys. And you have to put it on top of an aquifer. And the community has to move. And you have to move. You have to move, Mrs. Ashby. But what does Mrs. Ashby do? It's part of a larger plan. That's Mr. Smelter that they wanted to put down there. And just a little higher up. Well, that's point 14. There already is a 100% LNG plant there. So they couldn't put anything there. And the refinery is here in point 14. just there, that's Labray. They went to Mr. Gore and they went to Mr. Carter. We want to put up the Labray Industrial Estate with another smelter. And in fact, move in early one morning and destroy 1,000 acres of trees, forest, and they cover 3 water-producing dams. That's what they do. Industrial port, smelter. 3 miles of coastline. Then they go a little bit to the north again, and this happened 10 years ago. It's happening incrementally 10 years ago. Just at the mouth of the Godino River, on the Otahiti Bank, just next to the Urupuch Lagoon, a huge reclamation project, 2,000 acres, where they want to put a smelter and steel mill. So they go to Mr. Sipasad, president of the Otahiti Fishing Association. You want to put it there? Give us a place now. You want to put it there? And then, just note of that. Well, just note of that is really the industrial city of San Fernando. They can't do anything here. Just note of that. In the Bay, Gladstone Bay, they go to Mr. Budram and Mr. The Fishermen's Association president, and they say they're going to take the bay and convert it into a huge reclamation project. Right there, on the fisheries, on the seagrass beds, on the mangrove system. Just behind that, an industrial port there, and behind that, in Franz Garden, an SR steel mill, 100% owned by Indians, right there next to the community. And just note of that, Westlake, 100% owned by the Americans. Just note of that, Carisal Chemical Company, Canadian American owned. And just note of that, that's Point Lisa, it's kind of like there, so you can't put anything there. Just to the mouth of the Carrick, between Carrick and Silos, a huge reclamation project again. Just note of that, from Silos to Chagramas, a huge expanse or band of high-rise buildings, commercial buildings, mega complexes, cinemas, theaters, shopping complexes, and so on. Right up to Chagramas there. Now you see the picture? Yeah. That was the master plan.
Yeah.
That was their master plan. So on any one 9 o'clock night, Mr. Manning and his technocrat on his right could go out on a yacht into the coast there, and when he looks, he saw a beautiful array, a beautiful jewel, glitter, and he would be well pleased. Because that's what he wanted, that is his dream, that's his vision. The problem is, that never happened. The problem for Mr. Manning and the government and the state corporations and the corporations and the foreign corporations Peking and New Delhi and Canberra and Brasilia, all of that was deconstructed. Except for a few buildings in Port of Spain, which you all love, but that's cool. That's cool too. You have the building, it's still there. And the reason why it never happened is because Mrs. Ashby said no. She said, "Get thee hence, Satan." That's what she said, sorry. "I do not want your filthy lucre." And she stood up with the communities, and Priscilla was there, she knows about this, a lot of young activists. And they put down so much thunder and out where they had to go. And this led to a domino effect, a chain effect. And all the communities on the West Coast stood up, all their local leaders with their communities, small people, and drove away the state officials, the facilitators of a global investment state based elsewhere, not here. Do you understand what happened? Do you understand the miracle of that? It doesn't exist. The wall was deconstructed, domino effect, everything gone. Until that? Yeah. What do you think about that? And I think Mrs. Ashby was pivotal because she had a kind of sense, you know? She understood what I call the social equations confronting her at her point in history. She understood that that's a mangrove system. Look at mangrove system right there, brother. If the Chinese want to take that macro system, they can't take it and put it in a wheelbarrow. They can't take it and put it in their back pocket. They do something very peculiar. It's called monetization. They convert it into a liquid asset. They monetize the resource. When you can monetize the resource, then you can divide it up and then separate it into different compartments and chip it up. You understand that point? She understood that social equation confronting society. And moreover, she understood that if they took away honey from the beekeeping industry in the forest, and they shut down the milk farm, and they put the cement over the aquifer, and they closed on all commons, what is she left with? She's an animal in a pen. And the very minute they take away these resources, the following day the market will come to Mrs. Ashby and package milk, honey, and water and sell it back to her. You understand that? The very same things that they took from her yesterday, they come back right there. The capital market is very viral and sell it back to Mrs. Ashby, well, at a higher price, of course. They animalize and coralize her. And it's because she understood that social equation confronting her and the people. Because of this sort of subliminal kind of connection to the past, I think, that she drove them all away, and all of them were driven away. That's St. Joseph. Behind him is the Atlantic Ocean and Africa. That's Manzanilla. He doesn't belong there. He used to live 100 meters out in the sea. And he used to belong to a church. And the church was washed away, and St. Joseph was washed away. And some fishermen picked him up from the bottom of the ocean and put him there. But St. Joseph has a problem. See the problem? Next month, he has to move again. And the house has to move again, because there has been a powerful acceleration of coastal erosion where he lives over the last 20 years. Powerful. Megatons of megatons of megatons of energy are building up in the coastal waters behind St. Joseph and displacing itself in the air, discharging itself in the form of global warming, climate change, whatever you want to call it, tsunamis, flooding, tornadoes, typhoons, and so on. You know the story, I don't want to bore you with that. So what do we have? Think about East Coast, West Coast. On the West Coast, that intrusive, viral, capital, liquidifying, monetizing capital is not going to go away. They're going to come at you again. That's the nature of the modern international investment state. They're going to come at you again. There's so much competition with the BRIC countries and the more developed countries and the less developed countries. They're going to come at you again. And they will not stop until all the organic life in Trinidad and Tobago, your island, is converted into some kind of polyurethane or some kind of polyurethane fiber or some kind of plasticine or what do you call that thing that fell down? Domino brick. They're not going to stop until they can sell the last man in Chataba. Is that a Nike shoes you're wearing? A Nike shoes, no, thank God. They're not going to stop, it's going to come. And global warming on the other side, it's not going to stop. It's going to come on and on. And I managed to put together that formula or that equation, which basically explains. This is a global thing. This is what's happening in Trinidad and Tobago, of course, as you know, is the microcosm of what's happening internationally, globally, not so? It's just a metaphor. So the viral capital coming from your left side and viral global warming coming from your right side will lead, this is not a postulation, this is not a prophecy, this is not a hypothesis, a theory. It will lead to the fragmentation of organic life as we know it on the planet. And that's the best image I could have stolen from the web to explain that process of fragmentation. Just at the top left-hand corner, you see where it's dark? That represents mass biotic life, mass culture, mass civilization, mass humanity, mass organic life. And you see this goes through time, through your future history, to the right, through the century, it will lead to a kind of thinning, a kind of degradation, a kind of draining, until what you get at the bottom right-hand corner, there is a kind of There's nothing. Mars is gone. A kind of anemic shock. That's what you get. I'm just telling you that not because I want to scare you, but that's a very brutal fact of your future history, the thinning and the withering of organic life in the planet. What do you do about it? There's a very interesting play by Harold Pinter, the British playwright. I think he won a Nobel Prize for it, in his other works. He says when atrocity comes into your doorstep, it comes into your home, it comes, whether it's incest or whatever it is, in Africa, wherever it is, when atrocity comes, people behave in different ways. When it comes into your land and confronts you. Some people, they're not aware of it. They live life hurried up and they say, bring more of it, you know what I mean? It's like they're just oblivious of it. And they just go on living normally. Yeah? Some people are aware of what's going on, but they cannot stand up to it, they feel important, and they just watch it going on and they just don't do anything about it. Some people actually get up and they join the atrocity. And some people get up and they fight against the atrocity. Those are the people on the West Coast who fought. Unnamed people. You're pointing to it because you recognize some people. You recognize Miss Sunday, and you recognize Miss Daisy, and you recognize Mrs. Radican. And so, those are the heroes. It's not me, it's the people. To fight. I suppose you all understand the concept of the withering of organic life, but anybody understand fighting? I do. We've fought with those people, and we've conquered, and we've been victorious. The necessity of fighting. There is nothing more beautiful, Attila, than organic life. And there is nothing more beautiful than fighting for you and all organic life. Thank you very much.